Narahari Sakar. He says, Ye ye mahanta kilaham saputa jagat praviti karanartha magata tete tat uchista niseva nome kartam vishudam rachanam pravinam. In this verse, he is explaining that Ye ye mahanta kilaham saputa, that these swan-like devotees are my most worshipful objects. Jagat Pravritti Karanartha Nagata, that they have the ability to purify all the three worlds. So what am I doing? Tete tat uchista niseva nome. I'm simply taking their remnants. The things which they presented, I'm simply taking their remnants. Kartum vishunam rachanam pravinam. So may my words simply reflect the conclusions of those acharyas. Anytime we speak Krishna Katha, we should always begin by glorifying Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because without glorifying Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there's no question of understanding anything in the realm of divinity. It's explained in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Doya Kahara Vichar Kahara Karite Chite Bhave Chamatkar. That if you are interested in logic and argument, am I speaking too fast, by the way? No? Okay. If I am, let me know, because I'm used to speaking in English, so sometimes it gets carried away. So, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Daya Kahara Vichar Kahara Karite Chite Bhave Chamatkar. That if you are interested in logic and argument, many people nowadays, they're very interested in scientific explanation, a logical explanation, and they want to kind of understand things through their dry mind and senses. This is known as I think it's Avarodha Panta or Aroha Panta. I get the two confused. Aroha Panta means reductive. Going up. Aro means up, so Avaro means coming down. So everyone's interested in this Aroha Panta, going up. So they're interested in utilizing their senses to come to a conclusion that it's like this, it's like that, based on what I perceive. And so in this way, what happens is Tararko Pratishtam Shatayo Vibinam Nasya Rashir Yasya Matam Dabinam Dharmasya Tatvam Guhutam Guhayam. That Tararko Pratishtam Shatayo Vibinam, but there's many contradictions through this logic. Many contradictions arise. But Kaviraj Goswami is saying in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that you apply your logic to the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You try to apply this propensity to try to speculate and understand. You simply try to understand the personality of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and what he has come to give. And what will you find? Bhave Chamatkar. That this is a very wonderful thing which Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving. It's very unusual actually. Chirada dantam nijagupta vitam suprema namamrita apidadam aparama yovidatara gora krishno jane byastamaham prapadye. Chirada dantam nijagupta vitam. This nijagupta vitam means that it's his special treasury. Nija means his own. Gupta means confidential. And Vitam means wealth. So his own personal wealth he is giving to the world. And who is he giving it to? Suprema Namamrita Abhidada. He's doing it through giving Krishna Prema through the chanting of his names. So he's, by giving this special wealth to the world, he's giving his own self. He's giving his entire self to this entire world. Through this chanting of Hare Krishna. And who's he giving it to? Aparama yovitatara gora krishnojane vyastamaham prapadye. He's giving it to those who are aparama, the least qualified. So the special feature of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy is that the least qualified are the most qualified in this age. Generally, when we think of qualification in this world, we think of upward mobility. But in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's case, our upward mobility is our downward disposition. The more we develop a downward disposition, which means we see ourselves as Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, Amara Jivana Sarapape Rata. That, look at my life, it's been wasted. The more that this disposition is taken, That's our upward mobility in Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement. Our upward mobility is our downward conception. So who is this Chaitanya Mahaprabhu if we apply ourselves? Why is this mercy so wonderful? Because there's been many saints who have appeared. What are some saints in India? Namdev, that's one, and Tukaram, that's West India. Let's do all the areas of India. One person at a time. Guru Nanak Dev in the north, in Punjab, right? Yeah. And who's in the east? Let's think of some. Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Or this one, Swami Vivekananda.
Before looking at
Swami Vivekananda. Let's think of someone else in the east. Who is some saints that appeared there? Jayadev?
Yes,
Jayadev Goswami, right? Jayadev Goswami. Vidyapati, Chandidas. Did you have one? She said Tukaram? Tukaram in Maharashtra.
Was it Maharashtra?
Tukaram, yeah, that's in Maharashtra. What's the name? Pandharpur. Yeah, Pandharpur. And of course, South India has so many. The Alvars, and the Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya. So many great acharyas, especially in South India. So prominent. And all over the world, actually, you'll find them. There's Jesus Christ, and then Muhammad. So many great saints have come. So why is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? What's so special about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? And plus, furthermore, in India, there's so many people that right now is Durga Puja, correct? Yeah. And so many people are worshiping Durga. And actually, many people, they'll be worshiping Durga with the conception that Durga is supreme. They have that conception there. And some people will be considering that Lord Shiva is supreme during Shivaratri. And in South India, people will say that Vishnu is supreme. There's so many different conceptions which people have. And even in the Western world, people have different conceptions. Like Native Americans, they worship nature as being the supreme. Or Joseph Smith amongst the Mormons, he also taught something similar, that God is great. So this conception is all over, but there's no definitive understanding as to who is actually supreme. And furthermore, if someone is supreme, what makes them supreme? So in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's this verse that comes, Radha Krishna Pranaya Vrikatir La Dini Shaktir Asma Ekam Atman Bhuvi Purada Deham Betam Gatau Tau Chaitam Akyam Prakatam Aduna Tatvayam Chaikyam Aptam Radha Bhava Dyuti Swalitam Nami Krishna Swarupam. That Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Radha Krishna are eternally two personalities. They're always existing as two personalities with the same purpose. Eka Atman Bhuvi. They're the same person, but Bhetam Gatau Tau. They've become two. They've become two for the purpose of experiencing the mood of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sorry, they've become one. These two personalities have now become one. Ekam Atman Bhuvi Purada Deham Betam Gatautam Chaitam Akyam Prakatam Anuna Tatvayam Chaikyam Aptam Radha Bhava Duti Swaditam Nomi Krishna Swarupam. So what is this form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? It's the heart and halo. It's Krishna. He's Krishna, but he has the heart and halo of Srimati Radharani. Heart means the bhava, and the halo means the beauty. So Krishna is experiencing this love which Srimati Radharani has. And what is that love? Shri Radha Pranaya Vrikati Shri Radhaya Pranaya Mahima Kija Sovana Yaiva Sadhyo Yena Apurta Madhurima Kija Samvana Yaiva Sokyam Chasyat Manuna Bhavataha Kija Samheti Loba Tat Bhavatyaya Samajani Sachi Sindo Sachi Garbo Sindo Hrindo. That although the moon doesn't rise over the ocean, It's this form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is rising in this world. And what has he come to experience? Krishna has come with the mood and complexion of Srimati Radharani for the purpose of what? Experiencing his own sweetness. When she sees him, what is the love which she's experiencing when she sees him? What is the sweetness which Krishna carries, which she can only find in him? And what is the quality of love which you have that verse? I always get the three points mixed up. Yeah, so desiring to understand the glory of her love, the wonderful qualities in him that she alone relishes through her love, and the happiness she feels when she realizes the sweetness of his love. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is coming to experiencing that for himself. But because he's accepting this mood of Radha Bhava, this overwhelming mood of Srimati Radharani's love for Krishna, then the natural byproduct of that is there's an external purpose which manifests. And what is that external purpose? Anarpita charim shira karuna avatirna kalo samarpaitam unanta jwalarasam swabhakti shriham hari purara sundara duti kandamba sadipitaha sada hridaya kandare spurito vasachinanda. That not for a long time this hadn't taken place. And Krishna developed this greed to experience her love right at the same time that there was a need for an incarnation. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes, he relishes his own personal reason, his antarkarana, but simultaneously he fulfills a bahir karana, which is the external cause. And that external cause has to do with benefiting the entire world. So the special feature of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, if one can apply their intelligence, apply their logic to the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the special feature of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy is that in this age, in this time which we live in, the Karuna Shakti has predominance over the Icha Shakti of the Lord. You know this Icha Shakti? Anyone understand this?
Own desire.
Own desire, their desire, yeah. So it's explained in the Upanishads, Parashaktir Vivadevasuyate Swabhavaki Jnana Bala Kriyacha, that the Lord has many various potencies which pervade the world. In this pastime of Damodar, we see that there's many potencies which are taking place. First, there is the Vibhuti Shakti of the Lord, or there's the Sankalpa Shakti that Krishna desired to create some mischief for Mother Yashoda when she was trying to bind him. His desire was so strong that through that Sankalpa Shakti, the Vibhuti Shakti became engaged. And that Vibhuti Shakti didn't allow the rope to bind Lord Damodar. And so then, seeing the parashrama of Mother Yashoda's endeavor to want to bind Krishna, her desire to want to love and serve him captured his heart in such a way that the Karuna Shakti became prominent, and then he was bound. Soon as the Karuna Shakti became prominent, the Vibhuti and Sankalpa Shaktis fled. Because the Karuna Shakti has the most power. So in order to keep that Karuna Shakti in control in previous ages, in the incarnation of Krishna, the Lila Purushottama, in the Bharyadam Purushottama of Lord Ram, this Karuna Shakti is controlled by the Icha Shakti of Krishna. The desire of the Lord controls the Karuna Shakti of the Lord. But in the incarnation of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Prema Purushottama, what takes place is that the Karuna Shakti has predominance over the Icha Shakti. It means that Krishna's mercy has more power than his desire. So it becomes so prominent that everyone becomes inundated in this ocean, this tidal wave of Ujnanta Jwala Rasam, Swabhakti Shriyam, this sweet love and devotion which is only found in the residence of Vrindavan. Aradayo Bhagavan Brajeshas Tarayas Tadama Vrindavanam. That this Krishna, Aradayo Bhagavan Brajeshas Tarayas Tadama Vrindavanam. This is not, Krishna and Vrindavan, they're non-different from each other. Ramyam Kacharupasanam Brajavadur Vargena Yakalpita. And the best way of worshipping this Vrindavan Krishna is the mood of love and devotion, which has been displayed by the residents of Vrindavan, specifically the gopis of Vrindavan. So, this type of love is being given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and it's being given quite freely. It's being given through what? Through the chanting of the holy names of Krishna. But in order to make this type of devotion accessible for the world, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given a process, and this process is mentioned by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur in the beginning of his songbook, Sharanagati. It's a beautiful song, which is actually one of my favorite songs. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he says, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Jivadoya Kori Swaparshada Swaya Dhama Saha Avatari. That being merciful to all the souls, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu descends with his associates in his abode. And furthermore, Ayanta Durabha Prema Kori Varidan Shikaya Sharanagati Bhakatera Pran. That to distribute the most rare form of prema. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying, Ayanta Durlabha Prema Kori Varidan. In order to give this charity to the entire world, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving a process. And what is that process? Shikaya Sharanagati Bhakatera Pran. He's giving it to the process of Sharanagati, this process of surrender. So the process of surrender should be considered the life and soul of all devotees who are following in the footsteps of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. As it said in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, what is the sustaining life force of the devotees of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is their mood of renunciation. And renunciation in the line of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu means the willingness to apply this process of Sharanagati. And Sharanagati is the 6 limbs of surrender. There's 6 limbs. Anukulyasya sankalpa, pratikulyasya varjitam, rakshititi vishvaso, goprit vevaranamdata, atmanik shepakarpanye, sadvita saranagati. So this 6 limbs of surrender is accepting everything favorable for the service of Krishna, rejecting everything unfavorable, considering Krishna my maintainer, considering Krishna my protector, always being willing to accept the will of Krishna in our life, and remaining in a humble disposition. These 6 limbs of surrender for those who are followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, those who are chanting the holy names of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. In order to go from mechanical to meaningful chanting, this application of the process of Sharanagati is not optional, but it's mandatory. This process of Sharanagati is mandatory for anyone who wants to go from mechanical chanting to meaningful chanting. So we see in the life of Lord Ram the example of this Sharanagati, the example of this surrender. And this is the special feature of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy, is that through the mood which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given through the chanting of the holy names, and through the process of Sharanagati, we can appreciate and admire and glorify and worship the devotion of all the Lord's devotees, which we see throughout the Shastras. And that's the whole purpose of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Is the Srimad Bhagavatam is simply interested in glorifying the devotees of the Lord. Whereas the Bhagavad Gita is Krishna speaking about himself and about the process of devotion. If someone is a cultured person and they speak about themselves, what's their general tendency?
He's full of himself.
No, if someone's a cultured person and they have to speak about themselves, how will they generally speak?
They would downplay.
They would downplay.
Yeah, humility.
Out of their humility, they'll naturally downplay their position. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, he speaks about himself, but he downplays his position. But in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the devotees come out and they directly glorify Krishna. They directly glorify Krishna in wonderful ways, in ways which even Krishna wants to hear. Even Krishna wants to hear his devotees speak about him. Why? Not for his self-aggrandizement. It's because he wants to hear the love which his devotees have for him. This captures Krishna's heart more than anything else. So in the Srimad Bhagavatam, we see circumstances which in other Puranas and other Vedas seem to be opposite. But, for instance, with the pastime of Vritrasura, in the Rig Veda, Indra is glorified in the story of Vritrasura. But in the Bhagavatam, Vritrasura, his prayers are considered by some Vaishnava Sampradayas to be the Chatur Shloki of the Bhagavatam, whereas we have our own Chatur Shloki, which is spoken by Krishna to Lord Brahma. In the Vallabha Sampradaya, the prayers of Vritrasura, those 4 verses, are considered to be their Chatur Shloki. So, such a position Srimad Bhagavatam carries, that it catches the best of everything. So in the same way, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the preacher of Srimad Bhagavatam, any Shastra which we approach, such as the Ramayana, we can capture the essence of devotion within that particular tradition. So, this story of the Ramayana, one of the most pivotal moments in the story of the Ramayana, is right after Hanuman crosses Lanka, the sea to Lanka, and he sets Lanka on fire. He sets the city on fire, and then he leaves, and then the demons are able to extinguish that fire, and then they have an assembly amongst each other. And Ravana is saying, I thank you all for having helped me conquer the world. Now I'm seeking your guidance on how to proceed forward. So all the demons were offering their ideas and their petitions as to how they could prepare for the impending invasion of Lord Ram and his soldiers. And many of them, being in fear of Ravana, didn't want to offer, or were incapable rather. Many times we become intoxicated by our admiration of people's temporary qualities, which cripples the intelligence in such a way that even if it's unintelligent for us to offer that person praise, still we do it. This is what takes place with the soldiers of Ravana. That the soldiers of Ravana, they're glorifying Lord Ram, that, even though Hanuman came in and he burnt the city of Lanka, it was a fluke. He didn't actually, he only was successful because he caught us off guard. But now that we know that they're coming, we can be prepared. And because we have you, and because we have all of your soldiers, surely we'll be able to defeat them. Plus, they're only humans and monkeys. What can they do to us? What can they do to us? So each person was going on glorifying Lord Ravana in this way. And it was Vibhishan, who was a devotee actually. He was the only well-wisher of Ravana. Of all the people amongst him, Vibhishan was the only one who actually had the best interest at heart for Ravana. The Niti Sastras explains that friends and enemies, they arise due to circumstances. So the disposition of the devotee is Jitatma Prashantasya Sito San Sito. What's that? Sito San Sukadukesu Tatamana Pamanayo. That the nature of the devotee who is in touch with the Supersoul is that they see everything equally. There's no consideration of who is a friend, who is an enemy, honor, dishonor, heat and cold. They're above circumstances. So Vibhishan, even though Ravana was the avowed enemy of Lord Ram, still Vibhishan's vision was such that he could appreciate that Ravana's behavior is only circumstantial. Ravana's behavior is only based on the circumstances which have arisen due to his karma and due to his conditioning, but underneath that, Vidyavanaya sampane brahmani gavani hasti suni chaivaso pankecha pandita samadarshana. Underneath that, he is Lord Ram's servant. And his greatest welfare will be not to go to war with Ram, but to surrender to Ram. So Vibhishan said, "You are a fool, Ravana. You think that by fighting Lord Ram, by taking Sita, you're going to be able to defeat him. But you're a fool. If you really want to protect yourself, and you really want to protect our entire empire, you should return Sita. Otherwise, everyone here is as good as dead." This was the words of Vibhishan. He spoke so strongly against Ravana. And Ravana became quite pensive and reflective. And he said, anyways, we'll adjourn here, and tomorrow we'll reconvene and discuss the matter further. So the next day came, and Vibhishan was hoping that Lord Ram would take heed to his words. But the problem with the problem with Ravana is that Ravana, despite the fact he received so many good instructions, his own arrogance and his own pride would constantly get in the way of him being able to execute those instructions. He was so fixed on fulfilling the demands of his mind and senses that despite the fact he would receive intelligent instructions from qualified individuals, he could never hear it once. He received, if you go through the Ramayana, I'll be completely honest with you, I have not studied Ramayana as deeply as I should have, but I know a little bit. But from what I have studied, if you go through the Ramayana, you'll find throughout the Ramayana, countless number of times, Ravana is receiving warnings to not fight Lord Ram and return Sita. So many warnings he received. Do not go to war with Ram. Do not pick a quarrel with him. Simply be satisfied with what you've attained, and do not create any more harm for yourself and harm for your followers. But his desires were so insatiable. His desires were so uncontrolled that he just couldn't help himself. He was forced by his mind to act against his own welfare. So the night of lusting over the thought of trying to enjoy Sita and trying to captivate Sita had completely polluted his intelligence to the point that Vibhishan's instructions had become completely useless. Up to that point, the previous day, Vibhishan had never said a thing. But now it had gotten to the point where Vibhishan felt he needed to say something. So, once again, all of Ravana's council were encouraging him in this war with Ram, encouraging him that we can win. But even in the midst of that, Kumbhakarna, Ravana's brother, he said, "You should return Sita. But even if you don't return Sita, I am so powerful that I'll be able to defeat Ram's army." So even in the midst of a person like Kumbhakarna, still instructions are coming to Ravana. Still instructions are coming. So Ravana, being glorified by his ministry, his son Indrajit began to glorify him as well. And say, "Surely we will win." And when Vibhishan said, "You're all speaking like fools. You don't know what you're getting yourself into." That Ravana the day before had been saying that only a fool will surround himself, only a fool will act on his own whims and not take counsel from a good assembly. But now his own words were coming back to bite him, because his assembly were simply encouraging his own whims, and only Vibhishan was speaking wise words. And when Vibhishan spoke those wise words again, Indrajit rejected him and said, "Just see, we have an enemy living in our midst. In our own home, we have someone who's an enemy who wants to kill us." But actually, there was no question in the mind of Vibhishan of being an enemy to anyone. There is no question of him of wishing bad for anyone. His only desire was to see that Ravana could be given an opportunity to give up his foolishness, return Sita, and protect the empire. He was the only well-wisher. But the bodily conception of life, what it does is it pollutes our consciousness in such a way that ichadvesa samutena davan mohena bharata sarva bhutani samoham sagre yanti parantapa. Ichadvesa samutena, that this raga and dvesha, this desire and hatred, when we become absorbed in the bodily conception of life, janasya moho yamaham mameti. Becoming absorbed in the bodily conception of life means becoming absorbed in the circumstantial arrangements of the material body and the things in relationship to our subtle mind and our gross body. Whatever threatens our gross body, we consider to be our enemy, and whatever gives pleasure to our gross body, we consider it to be our friend. This is how friends and enemies are simply created out of circumstances in this world. But someone who has a devotional vision, there's no question, even someone who causes wrong to a devotee, there's no question of retaliation. There's no question of wishing wrong for them. This is explained in the pastime of Parikshit Maharaj, when he was cursed by Shringi, the Brahmana boy. Taraskrita vipralabdas tataskipta hata api nasya tat pratikurvanti tad bhakta pravabopihi. That when Maharaj Parikshit was cursed, he was put into a position. Now, Maharaj Parikshit was an extremely powerful king. And he was cursed by a very immature Brahmana boy. And surely his spiritual Shakti was much more prolific than this Brahmana boy. So when Somika Rishi was informed of what had happened to Maharaj Parikshit, he said, "That boy is a fool. He's such a pious king, such a qualified person. And now, the world, Kali Yuga has surely begun because the Brahmanas have lost their sobriety. They've lost their gravity. So he could see that Kali Yuga has begun due to the behavior of his son, Shringi. And when Shomika was trying to think of something which could be done to reverse the circumstances for his son, he realized there was nothing that could be done. And that's when he recited this. Traskrita Vipra. What is the first line? Yeah. Traskrita Vipra Labdas Shipta Kapta Ata Api. Nasya Tat Pratikurvanti Tad Bhakta Prabhupihi. That if a devotee is cursed, if a devotee is mistreated, if he's dishonored, if someone causes harm to him, even if he's killed, the nature of a devotee is so forbearing that he won't retaliate against the perpetrator. Why? Because the devotee's vision is such that this is the arrangement of Krishna. So we see the way that the way that Parikshit Maharaj responds is not by retaliating against the perpetrator, but taking shelter of the Lord. So in the same way, Vibhishan, he had three options. He could stay with Ravana, He could renounce his duty altogether as a Kshatriya, but to stay with Ravana would be completely adharmic, because it would be going against the very thing which he was informing Ravana to give up. He would be signing with Ravana was beyond question at this point, because he had lost his dignity. He had spoken truthful words to an assembly which was deaf to them. And when one does that, they sacrifice their own quality of truthfulness. When you speak truthful words to people who are unqualified to hear them or unwilling to apply them, one sacrifices their quality of truthfulness. So there's no question of going back. Just like Vidura, after he had been mistreated by Duryodhana, there is no question of returning to the assembly of the Kauravas. There is no question. So in the same way, there is no question of Vibhishan returning to the side of Ravana. So his other option was leave, just reject this world. Reject this world, become a mendicant. But as we see in the Bhagavad Gita, that's also not an option. If you're a Kshatriya, you remain as a Kshatriya. You maintain your duty as a Kshatriya, and you carry out the responsibility which you have as a Kshatriya. So what is the third option? Go to Rama. Now to do this is extremely dangerous. You can imagine that, like for instance, we have some wars going on in this world. What are some of the wars which are going on right now? Syria and Iraq, they're also having a war. So Syria and Iraq, name some other ones.
Ukraine, Russia,
Israel,
there's everyone.
India, Pakistan, right? Bangladesh, with internally they're having some conflicts. So many conflicts are going on right now in the world. It's interesting. Even in Mexico right now, there's drug wars going on over land. The drug lords they have a lot of power. They're like extremely powerful big business magnates in Mexico. Even they're fighting. So you can imagine that if, let's say you're on the side of Ukraine and you defect from Ukraine and you try to go to Russia, how dangerous that can be for you. Because if you defect, you're immediately rejected by your homeland, right? With the hope that you'll be accepted by the enemy. So this is a very dangerous thing to do, which he decided to do. Practically impossible. But as Prahlad Maharaj says, that protection in this world and protection by material circumstances and material causes and effects is completely illusory. Balasya neha sharanam pitaro nishimha. Balasya neha sharanam pitaro nishimha. I know the verse, I just have to kind of chew on it a little bit. Balasya neha sharanam pitaro nishimha. Nartasya cha udanvati maujatona taptasya tat prativitir ivihasa jesas tadvavibo tanubritam tva upekshitanam. That this idea of protection in this world, that parents can protect their children, that's an illusion. That medicine can protect a dying patient, that's an illusion. Or that a boat can protect a drowning man, that's an illusion. If the mercy of Krishna, if the protection of Krishna is not present in the life of a person, no matter how many arrangements they try to make for their own protection, it is completely useless. So, Vibhishan, having complete faith in Lord Ram, having complete faith that despite the fact he's going to leave the status quo, he's going to leave his so-called position of protection. He's the younger brother of Ravana. So he has a guaranteed position of being protected in a material sense from Ravana. Ravana is very powerful. He has money. He has position. He has control. And Vibhishan's the younger brother. All Vibhishan has to do is give up his idea of being against Ravana or trying to give counsel to Ravana and just accept Ravana's illusion, and he's guaranteed to be protected. Why would he need to give up such a position? This is relevant to us as devotees, because many times we were put in a similar situation. Practically guaranteed you will be put in a position where, materially speaking, everything is nice, everything is peaceful, everything is arranged and controlled, and everything seems to be perfect. But devotion, Sharanagati, means despite those circumstances, if they are unfavorable, Pratikulya Savarjitam, if they are unfavorable to my service, they should be given up. So this is the principle, that Vibhishan could see that the atmosphere which Ravana had created in Lanka was unfavorable to his surrender. So he approached Lord Ram. And what does he say to Lord? He approaches Lord Ram and he surrenders himself. And as he's surrendering, you have Sugriva, you have all the monkeys. They're very, very suspicious. They're Kshatriyas. They're trained in the art of diplomacy. And they're thinking, how can we trust him? How can we trust him? He's coming from the side of Ravana. He's a spy. Ram, you should kill him immediately. You should kill him or you should make him a prisoner. There is no reason to trust him. But Hanuman, being as surrendered as he was to Lord Ram, could detect the sincerity of Vibhishan's statement. He could detect the non-duplicitous nature of Vibhishana. And so when Vibhishan approached Lord Ram, there was these contradictory arguments going on amongst amongst Hanuman and Sugriva, contradictory statements. But what does Lord Ram say? Sakrit eva prapano yas tava smitchita yachate. Dadami buddhi Abhayam what's Abhayam sarvabhubhya bhutedyo dadami etat pratamama. That anyone who comes to me once and surrenders and says, I am yours, and they offer themselves as a servant to me, even once if they say it, Abhayam sarvabhutani dadami etat pratamama. It is my vow. It is my vow that I will protect them and I will offer them fearlessness. So this is the nature of the Lord. This is considered by Ramanuja Acharya as one of the Charama Shlokas of the Ramanuja Sampradaya. It's held in high regard by all Vaishnavas in every Sampradaya. This mood of Lord Ram, this vow which Lord Ram makes, it reveals the heart of the Lord. It reveals how much the Lord is willing to offer protection to anyone and everyone, despite their position. Now, why is this relevant? Because, as I was saying, more likely than not, our life is not going to be like the life of Hanuman. Our life and the decisions we have to make in our life are going to be like Vibhishan. And to come to the point of offering oneself at the feet of Lord Ram, having faith that Lord Ram will protect me, and simultaneously being unconvinced that anything in this world can even possibly protect me. This is what enlivens our heart as devotees. Tadapuna mukta samasta bandhanas tadbhava bhavanukritashayakati. That Prahlad Maharaj explains that the more you come in contact with this subject matter of Krishna and devotion, the more you hear about the devotion of the devotees, the more you hear about the mercy of Krishna. It is like an iron rod going inside of a fire. Tadbhava bhavanukritashayakati. That just as you put an iron rod inside of a fire, it develops all the same qualities of a fire. In the same way, when we hear about this surrender of Vibhishan, when we hear the decision he had to make to give up his so-called atmosphere of material protection in order to fully accept the protection of Lord Ram, that mood rubs off on us. It rubs off. And that gradually, through regular hearing and surrendering, that becomes a part of us. So this mood of Vibhishan is glorified so much. And Vibhishan played such an important role in the victory of Lord Ram over Ravana. And when we hear these pastimes, we should pray that we can be gifted with the intelligence which Vibhishana had in order to, despite all obstacles, despite all reasons to avoid it, that our consciousness and our mind can constantly flow towards the surrender and complete submission to service of Krishna. So we can open it up for some discussion.
So many takeaways, especially the 6 limbs of bhakti and our mode of chanting. It's such a sort of deep and sublime connection. It also links back to the morning session you had with the base kids, where installation of Chaitanya Prabhu in our heart, but through the Mahamantra. If you kind of combine these two, that sort of is really beautiful, at least for me who's still struggling to do a fenceless chant.
Thank you.
I just loved the whole session. The way you weave all the different verses, and you started from Chaitanya Charitamrita and incorporation of stories from Bhagavatam, and then arriving at Ramayana. Actually, what you spoke was what I was discussing yesterday and what I have to discuss today. So the wonderful thing is that I was really willing to wanting to hear it with those realizations, especially the way you related visions. This is my takeaway. What I really love is how you related that our life will not be like Hanuman, it will be like a vision. And it is actually something, it is very thought provoking that we'll have to see Vibhishan had everything in from the material perspective that is required for security or protection. And he took that courageous decision to stand with her. I really love this last line. The more faith that we have that Lord Ram is going to protect us, and that nothing, no amount of material protection can really harm us again. Really inspiring.
So very often we discuss as in grihasthas who are doing jobs, businesses, keeping the house running. It's this question arises. Where do we draw the line? What does surrender really mean in a modern sort of day-to-day life? I know Prabhu has been in the CEO position at Hindustan Lever, which is a very big company. And so all of us have so much engagement with the world and problems other people sort of bring to us. And Vibhishan's problem is probably way bigger than what we face. So it's really inspiring to see that. But is there any other like step-by-step way that we can apply it in our lives? We are still beginners, so to speak.
Well, Jiva Goswami explains in the Bhakti Sandarbha that this verse, Anukulyasya Sankalpa Pratikulyasya Varjita, that the Swarup Lakshana, the primary consideration of that verse is this Goprit Vevaranam Tata. Goprit Vevaranam Tata. That Krishna is my maintainer. Which Srila Prabhupada translates in a very interesting way in his translation of this verse in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. That to consider Krishna as my maintainer is that just as a wife is maintained by the husband, a child is maintained by the parents, a servant is maintained by their master, and so on and so forth. But there's a practicality to it that one feels themselves to be indebted, and that feeling of maintenance specifically means that I have a mood of service, that I want to serve. So in the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu entered the village of Kumarahata, when he entered into that village, he met a Brahmana whose name isn't really given, but he's known as the Kumara Brahmana. The Kurma. I'm saying Kumara, that means a little boy. That's the defect of being born in America. So the Kurma Brahmana, he's very respected in the village, obviously, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to his home to have prasadam. So the Kurma Brahmana was so enchanted by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that he really wanted to give up everything and be with him. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, don't ever speak like that again. Rather, yare deka tahe kaha Krishna upadesh amara agnaya guru tana etesh. And then he goes on, and the next verse he says, that verse is saying that wherever you live, whatever you go, spread the names and the chanting of the holy names of Krishna. So he's emphasizing the need to give Krishna consciousness to other people. So if we're cultivating this mood of Goprit Ve Vardhanam, that I am a servant of Krishna, the way that the Kumara Brahmana wanted to become a servant of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the first thing which one does after they become accepted, I am a servant of Chaitanya Chaitanya Radhasa Muni, Chaitanya Radhasa Muni, Das Ranudas. The first thing that one does is they are looking for some service, something to do, which means accepting that which is favorable. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, you don't need to leave your home, but rather, Yare Deka Tahe Kaha Krishna Upadesha Mara Agnaya Guru Tana Edesha. Whoever you meet, wherever you go, just tell them about Krishna as he is presented in the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu goes on to say, I'm just going to pull up the verse in purport because it's too good. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he goes on to say, Kapana Badibe Tomar Vishaya Toranga Purapi E Tani Babe Murasanga. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu further advised the Brahmana Kurma, if you follow this instruction, your materialistic life at home will not obstruct your spiritual advancement. Indeed, if you follow these regular principles, you will again meet me here, or rather, you will never lose my company. Mahaprabhu offers two benedictions to someone who accepts this service of giving Krishna consciousness to others. That even if one's situated in the Grihastha ashram, Grihe Tako, Bane Tako, Sarahale, Hari, Bole Dako. That even if one is chanting the names of Krishna and giving the names of Krishna, how you organize your material life is quite superfluous. As long as you keep it simple, not overwhelm yourself with the artificial standards of living which is imposed upon us by modern society. But if you follow this instruction, your spiritual advancement will not be obstructed. And furthermore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that he will come and personally live with you. So, Srila Prabhupada gives a short purport, but he says something very powerful. I get asked this question practically everywhere that I go. And when I came across this, I just decided this is what I'm going to say from now on, because it's so practical. Anyone can do this. Anyone can make it a point to do this. This is an opportunity for everyone. If one simply follows the instructions of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu under the guidance of his representative and chants the Hare Krishna mantra, teaching everyone as far as possible the same principle. The contamination of the materialistic way of life will not even touch him. It does not matter whether one lives at a holy place like Vrindavan, Navadvip, or Jagannath Puri, or in the midst of European cities, where the materialistic way of life is very prominent. If a devotee follows the instructions of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he lives in the company of the Lord. Wherever he lives, he converts that place into Vrindavan or Navadvip. This means that materialism cannot touch him. This is the secret of success for one advancing in Krishna consciousness.
What better example than Bhaktivinoda Thakur himself?
Yes. It's the verse right after Yadi Deka Tahikaha. Verse right after Yadi Deka Tahika.
The number, I don't.
Yeah, I'll give you the number, no problem. It is Madhya 7 129. Yes, Nitai.
Thank you very much for being here. Beginning with this very powerful reminder that Lord Chaitanya's, you said the Lord's mercy is more overpowering than his desire. And I think this is something that the more we are aware, the more we realize that actually how, what a fortunate position we are in this, even in such crazy times, that we have access to Lord Chaitanya through Srila Prabhupada and our acharyas. And as you mentioned, that he came and he personally demonstrated, what a life of surrender is. And so we have all these secrets, like you just shared in this verse, the last verse that we quoted, that how we can be in the personal company of the Lord if we carry out the Lord's instructions. So, as you said, that we should also be willing to get out of our comfort zones, just like Vibhishan did. He took a bold step, and sometime in our life, I think we have to, gradually, we have to take those steps so we can more strongly get the Lord's mercy. Thank you very much.
We also have Priya Prabhu. This group that has gathered is mostly class that Priya Prabhu runs, and we had the good fortune of meeting all the devotees there. As the group grows, and you give us the pleasure to serve you here more often, we have more sense of it.
All glories to Priya for shelter so many wonderful souls.
All of them engage me. It's like a child when a child comes. They say, yeah, you serve me something, you serve me something. The child thinks, yeah, I'm serving. So all of them are trying to engage me, keep me busy so that I don't go astray.
Thank you so much, Devavrata Prabhu. So, this meaning of the song that you had, it also had my name in it, the Dikshit name. So, and so I was completely Priyamai Radha, and we were really surprised to see that. But so thank you for being so thoughtful and so kind with your time, despite having moving 2 flights, arriving at 2 a.m., getting here at 3:30. He had signed up for a class which Namaste Prabhu had suggested. And he said, okay, maybe he could do it. I said, yeah, I think he's ready to do it. And it's really proven right that you have this energy which is so
Brijrani Devidasi. I've been
What was it? One more time?
Brijrani Devidasi.
Okay, originally.
Krishna conscious came to me some years back, but I'm still a baby in this world, so I'm very blessed to get your association. And the lecture you gave was very inspiring. A lot of things that we seem to think we know, but the more we hear from evolved devotees like you, it just gives us things to think about and inspire us to move forward. It's the time of the year where you have the Shera. So we celebrate as a festival, but going deeper into the philosophy is what really helps us evolve. So thank you for this session.
Hare Krishna.
I'm Varsha. I'm not Dikshit yet, but the Krishna consciousness came to me like some years back, and I'm trying to get into it. I'm blessed to hear today. My name is Mukul, and like same, we are sitting in the same boat, so we are so Krishna consciousness happened to me 2 years back, and I got a great fortune to have a Shiksha Guru as Devavrata Prabhu and also Nitai Prabhu. So it just feels like I have a sweets in both my hands, and so I'm relishing, and it's every day, like child, like crawls and learns to walk one day. So I'm also hoping that one day with the association of all devotees and exalted devotees like you, that maybe I'll also be under the shelter of some spiritual guru and make more progress